welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UKOCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
You're listening to the 451st most popular podcast for people who know that onomatopoeia is pronounced exactly as it sounds.
Ian, my friend, welcome to the Swift Half again. How are you?
I'm great, Alan. How are you today?
Well, actually, I felt the world's been against me all week, but I've actually had not a bad day because everything seemed to come right up until the point we decided to record this and everything's gone wrong. So what people don't know, Ian, is the admin@ukocr.com email address is no longer alive. It's died, gone, just vanished. So please don't send anything into that at this moment in time until I set up another one. IT's been not my forte this week.
It's a real shame that you set up admin@UKOCR as your postcode lottery email, wasn't it?
I've set it up as everything, Ian. Honestly, paper, everything is set up as it. I've had it for like 10, 12 years now. And I've never realized how much you actually rely on emails. And you do because you use it to log into everything, bank accounts, the whole works.
You do, and you use it almost as a crude storage system as well. So that if you ever ask me, oh, Ian, what do we talk about such and such a day? I'll go to my emails and I'll search in there.
Yeah, you do. It's just gone. So all the emails I've had are still there, which is pretty cool because they're all downloaded to my phone. I just can't receive anything or send anything. And like, what I don't know about you, but is your passwords all stored on your phone? You know what I mean? Or do you have the same password? Don't tell me if you have the same password, but I don't.
I know you don't, and I don't have the same password. I am getting overtly reliant on my phone when it suggests a password, and I need to step away from that and make my own because I'll never remember them. I don't know about you, Alan, but there's so many places that I never insert my password more than once. I go straight to the forgot your password button.
Well, that's been the thing with me. So, but now I can't go to forgot your password button because it's going to send a link to my admin@ukocr.com web email address that's no longer I can log on to.
It's strange, isn't it? Because we're encouraged where we can to have a professional sounding email address. I use a Gmail. You have used UKOCR.com for so long. And a lot of times that does work in your favor, doesn't it? Because when we're doing press type things, people feel more comfortable emailing a UK.OCR.com email than just a random Gmail. But Gmail and Hotmail never let you down.
You know, and that's, I've created a new one today. I've had it going for a little bit, but UKOCR@hotmail.com, just so I can like transfer everything over to it slowly and surely. But I mean, I've been on the phone to the bank and saying to them, look, I don't know my password, but here's all my details. Can you change and like, they've been quite good at the bank, but like PayPal, that has been such a pain with PayPal. And I've ended up doing it, but I've set up this 2 or 3 factor authentication now where they send a message to my phone and stuff like that. It's just one thing after another. But everything is admin, isn't it? I mean, admin@ukocr.com has been there for such a long time. So hopefully I've got an IT guy onto it that thinks we might be able to recreate it, but on a different platform. So
that makes sense because, of course, we still own, I say we, I mean the royal we still own the UKOCR.com domain name.
Yeah.
So you still own admin@UKOCR.com and any other derivatives as well. So intern@admin@UKOCR.com, we still own that one, yes?
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm exactly saying.
It's just not going anywhere.
No. But on the back of that, Ian, I've just done a 48-hour fast. So I've been very hungry, shall we say, with things today.
Your timing is terrible.
I know. I did it by accident. So I've not purposely try to go 48 hours, but I was going to go for 36. So, I was going to go for 24. So on I'm going to predate this now. 2 days ago, I'm not going to say what date, but 2 days ago, I had my tea, 5 o'clock. And then the following day, I went right through to the evening and I got home late from work and then I was going for a run. So I went out, went for a run. Paul had made me spag bol when I got back. And you know, when I got back, I didn't want it. So I didn't have it last night. And then I got up this morning and I got up, took dogs for a walk, went to work, didn't have nothing at work again because I wasn't really that bothered about anything. And it wasn't until I come home tonight, so 48 hours later, I've had some tea.
Oh, yeah, that's probably not healthy, if I'm honest. I know people can do fast, but we tend to get ready for a fast, whereas I'm not sure if an accidental fast works. Matt Roberts, if you're listening to this, let us know.
£7 I've lost, though.
I'm not surprised, but I don't know if it's healthy. I kind of gave up my fasting in the morning. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. It's kind of whether or not I can be bothered finding food in the morning for breakfast.
Talking of food, yes. What meal deal have you had this week and what drink are you drinking?
We actually went to Morrison's this week, and as a result, I didn't even know this thing existed. Do you know who the current sponsor of the League Cup is?
The League Cup. Oh, Rumbelows.
It used to be Rumbelows. It used to be the Coca-Cola Cup. It's now the Carabao Cup or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I didn't realise we're actually a drink.
Oh, so Carabao's Carabao Sport. Oh, I didn't know that myself.
What, we're an insurance company?
Yeah, I would have thought something similar, or a television company or some IT thing. I never knew what they were.
They're apparently a drink and mixed berry, and it tastes okay. It's probably packed with lots of sugar. Yeah, a ridiculous amount of sugar. It has, let's see, 5.1 grams of sugar for every 100 milliliters. I think it's 500 milliliters. Probably more sugar in here than I've actually eaten for the last week.
Ian, that's not good. I'm off sugar nearly all of it, so which is good as well.
How can you be off sugar? You're still working your way for your Easter eggs.
No, my Easter eggs are still in the fridge, untouched. So's the chocolate. Yeah, untouched, Ian. I'm not doing it. I get enough sugar through because I drink Earl Grey tea now instead of coffee. I'm into Earl Grey tea, but I can't drink tea without having half a sugar, and that's because when I went to going to the forces and that, they the tea urns. They did tea, didn't get coffee. There was tea urns, big tea urns, and it was pre-sugared. And that was the only time I ever drank tea, and I still have to drink it with half a sugar. So that's the only sugar I'm having at the minute.
Again, I don't really drink tea because it's caffeine, and I can't imagine it without sugar generally. I'm not sure if it tastes nice black, if I'm honest, but listener, let us know, because I don't know.
No, but you don't have to put sugar in to make it white, and it can be black anyway. It's milk that makes it white.
Very nice.
That's how much you don't drink tea.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm actually on probably the coolest can I've ever seen. So at Christmas, I will someone purchased for me some Beavertown cans, and I'm on Lunar Haze, an hazy IPA. But the can, you need to Google this. Anyone out there, if you're listening to this, you need to Google it. It's probably the coolest looking can ever. It's bright purple with blues and oranges and yellows on. Yeah, and it's great. So I haven't tried it yet, so I'm going to try it live on air right now. You probably can hear me opening the can. Oh, very fruity. That's quite nice, that. Yeah, I like that. 4.5%, not too strong. Like that, Ian?
That's not too bad. Take a picture of the can, put it in the podcast pub later.
Yeah, I think, that's a great idea now. I'm actually going to take a picture of it now. But there we go. Straight, done and dusted. So
perfect. You can put it in, and yeah, people who are members, who are Patreons, get in touch, and we'll make sure you're members, because we've had a few more members recently, haven't we?
We have had a few more patrons. You can ask me of them all. I think I mentioned them last week, but one I didn't mention was Daryl White joined as well this last week. So thank you to Daryl for joining us. Much appreciated. He's actually going a little bit out of his way in the nicest possible way, because he's sharing our podcast as well as Accountability Corner, which is all we've ever tried to do, is share everything. It's great that there's someone else out there that's trying to do it as well.
Actually, check the Patreon in ages. How many do we have? We won't go through them this week. Let's leave that off till next week. But how many Patreons do we have? Or can you not remember the password and it's connected to admin.UKOCR?
It is connected to that, but I do actually know. So because I can still log into it, it's a good job I can still log into it because we need to share our podcasts early. But currently we are on, drum roll please. Do you know it doesn't add them up, Ian? What's that about? It doesn't actually add them up. You actually physically got to go down and count them. So let's people get them right. I will give them a shout out. Will Chung, Michelle Carney, Sophia Harnaday, Matthew Kirk, Martin Gemmell, Paul Ellis, Richard Willis, Gordon Cameron, Charlotte Malone, Daniel Weston, Ben Griffin, Bryony Keys, Wendy Brothers, Kevin Dent, Louise Ferryman, Mike Nolan, Miles Lacey, John Poole, Steve Mesham, Tim Crangle, Laura Haywood, James Burton, Encarnio Casalasarande, B. Wood, Justin Arne, Craig Redmond, Michael Walker, Kelly Spalding, Louis Stevens, Emily Young, Dawn, Katie Joyce, Dasa Scanella, Dawn Jollies, John Redman, Susan Jarman, Darren Martin, Chris Shipley, Daryl White, and Tink McDaniel. Some of those ones are free ones, and if they're free ones, then they'll get notified about the podcast as soon as they're released, but they just can't listen to them until they're on there. But there are supporters in terms of the following us and things like that, so it's all good.
So thank you all. I tried to go and have a look, and I ended up on the US one, which tells it all in dollars, which is really weird. It looks like we're not as good value in dollars.
Does it?
The UK people can join us on the highest level for £6 a month, and the poor USA people, they've got to pay $8 a month.
Oh,
so Sophia, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that doesn't sound great, that does it? When they're paying that amount of money, so it's like an extra dollar going up, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what the exchange rate is, but we're sorry, and that's to Sophia and Miles. I think they're our only USA Patreon, so sorry about that. It's Patreon, it's not us.
Yeah, it is definitely not us. We wouldn't do things like that. But thank you to you guys for supporting us. It is much appreciated to every one of us. So,
right. So what should we talk about?
Right. Let's go in with what made the news this weekend was Mr. Cook running the full length of Africa. I was going to say America then. Running the full length of Africa and claiming, and I'm going to say claiming, that he was the first person to run it, because there's a bit of an uproar going along in the community, shall we say, in the ultra running community. So, as we know, he's run the full length. Was it Egypt to Tunisia or Tunisia to Egypt? One way or another. He's the first one to do that particular route.
Okay.
However, he's not the first to run it in terms of the whole way, the whole distance. So there's been two other runners to my recollection, and Casper Johnny Poulsen was one of them, and I can't find the name of the other one. I did have it earlier on, but basically the guys have run it one way. He's ran it slightly different, but let's not take this away from him, Ian. Yeah, 10,000 kilometers, 362 days, if I remember my recollection is right. 352 days. Yeah, 10,000 kilometers. How far would you have got?
352 days. Well, I guess technically I tend to get about 25,000 miles in that time, but that is in the car.
Yeah, that would be me as well. I could probably do that. So I said 10,000 kilometers. It's actually 10,000 miles, but 10,000 miles. I could probably do that in a car as well, but I don't think I could. What an amazing feat. That means every day he has ran, I believe it works out over a marathon every day for 352 days.
Yeah, when you consider that for many people, 1,000 miles in a year is what they sometimes do as a target, don't they? That's a lot of people's target. Some people will then try to do 1,500. Some brave souls may even do 2,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, this just goes beyond all comparison and all fathomable ability. Sorry, I've malprismed there for you, Mr. Gemmell. I know you like it when I stumble over my words sometimes, but yeah, it just makes very sober listening when you consider how much he's done compared to the rest of us. As for the people who are saying, "Oh, he's not the first," just let him get home. For Christ's sake, just let him get home and enjoy his moment. Does it truly matter that much if the press have reported it slightly different? Because I suspect he's not reported it like that.
No, I mean, he hasn't done it to report it. He's done it to raise money. I think he's about £750,000, I think, is raised so far, which is absolutely phenomenal. But it's an amazing feat. But you know what? One of the things that makes it more amazing to me, and I would have quit, that he's been robbed more than once at gunpoint and chased with people with machetes. Do you know that first time that someone come up to me with a gun? I think when I read about it, I read it quite early on, at the middle of last year when he actually started, not long after he started. I think it was something like a month after he'd started. They came up and robbed him of all the equipment. So he had a bit of a crew with him. They took everything. Yeah. That's the point where I would have like gone to the nearest airport and got on a flight home.
They took everything. They even took his crew.
Yeah, well, maybe not his actual physical crew, but they took like his camera equipment and wallets, passports, everything went, you know. And this is in his first month. At that point, would you want to carry on?
No, but he really should have got out of the UK before starting this. Was he in Barnsley?
Was him? Good point. Good point. Yeah, it says 16 countries on here, maybe 17 countries because he went through Barnsley. He come and caught a plane from Leeds, didn't he? Had to pass through Barnsley. Oh, amazing. What an amazing fact. Do you think he's going to get a ticket now to Big's Backyard next year? Or even to the Barclays?
I don't know. It's hard because it doesn't really translate, does it? Because it's an amazing achievement what he's done, but I don't know what route he did. I have no clue. I'm trying not to downplay it, but I have no clue if he deliberately picked the flattest route you could possibly get in Africa or whether he was mountain hopping. I honestly don't know.
He says he went over, he doesn't say that, but he says he went over deserts, mountains. So I think you've got to go over some type of mountain. You'd think in Africa, you know, you're going to go over some mountains at some point. You know, even coming out of, from my recollection of going to Egypt is like in a bit of a valley. So wherever he comes, he's got to go over some type of mountain in Egypt, hasn't he?
That's true, yeah. Thinking about it, yeah, maybe Barclays or maybe maybe he gets an invite to the Barclays. It's Barclays Springtime, you know, where they do almost a qualifying, which is a single loop.
Yeah.
And just see how he gets on.
That would be pretty cool, that wouldn't it?
That would make sense. Have we invited him to Farmyard Jam yet?
No. He's not tough enough, you know. I reckon the moment on lap 4 when we crack the beers open, I think that's when he'd quit. Or, you know, we like the fire when it gets to midnight and the fire's roaring and everyone's singing songs and they have to run past us several times. I think that's the point where he'd want to quit.
I suspect he would. But the good news is his camera crew and everything would be perfectly safe from anyone except maybe the scary cows that may or may not break down gates if you start them.
Yeah. And if anyone else could farm our jam, there's still tickets available. Let's move on. Ian, second big topic of the week, yeah, and James Burton's joined us to discuss this one.
Hello. I know this topic. I know this
Hi,
topic.
James.
Welcome, James.
Hey, how are we doing?
We're good. Ian, what topic is it?
Nuclear is teaming up with Santa Claus to have a Christmas Day nuclear rush.
Would people sign up for a nuclear day? I don't think people would sign up for a nuclear day. Maybe Boxing Day.
Maybe Boxing Day. That would be a great... Did someone do a Boxing Day run once? Maybe Wild Forest did a Boxing Day training session.
Possibly.
There was a race that used to do it over the Christmas period, and I can't think what it was.
They still do. It wasn't a full OCR. It's more of a multi-terrain mud run. It's brutal down in Longmoor, down this way.
Ah, yeah, that's the one. I knew people get dressed up as Santa Claus. Doesn't it go
Yeah.
through a really deep, like a bit of a valley that's actually full of mud, and they have a DJ playing and smoke machines and things like that?
Yeah. There's some good mud sections. I can't remember the smoke machines, but there's definitely some good mud sections in it.
Yeah, I know it was something like that. I know it was something like Ian. No, it's not that one. No,
Oh, that's a shame. I'll let you carry on, then.
it's another federation has been announced. Ian, we've got World Obstacle.
We've always had World Obstacle.
No,
Do you
but
mean
we've got
World
another
OCR?
one. We've got another one. Is it?
No, we don't.
Yeah, World OCR.
World OCR, which are in charge of, I believe, the 17.63 meter OCR, the 19.1 meter OCR, the 2 cubic centimeters Ninja course, and the 3065 league double furlong OCR. Is that about right?
I think you're close. You're very, very close. Oh gosh, James, where does this leave us?
How to cover it? I think it's I guess a personal view, and I think a view shared by the board at British Obstacle Sports. It's a bit of an unnecessary distraction at this stage, because there's a big job to do. There's a massive period of change at an international level. We're aware, obviously, the memorandum of understanding between World Obstacle and World Pentathlon. That means that there is a potential of obviously a merger and various things happening, that all the national federations will need to vote on that decision, that plan. We have got a really important role to hold World Obstacle to account and ensure that what that looks like is good for our sport, essentially. And I think part of the fallout of all of this process and pentathlon federations talking to obstacle sports federations is someone who's put a lot of work into the sport. Raoul's done a lot of work in the sport. Has got upset and gone down this process of setting up a new international federation, which, as I say, I don't think I'm sure done with the best intentions. I don't think it's the best for the sport. Clearly, and it happens in a lot of fledgling sports as well, but clearly it's not a good look for the sport to have these rivalries getting created.
And go on, Ian.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, can I take a few steps back?
Sure.
And try and be a quote unquote ordinary member and try and figure this out. And James, you can correct all of this misunderstanding from my point of view. Okay. At this moment in time, we currently have this thing that exists called World Obstacle. True or false, James?
True.
True. Okay. We also have this general idea that World Obstacle and the modern pentathlon people, I'm not going to use the acronyms because that gets confusing, but the modern pentathlon people and World Obstacle, we have this general idea that they're going to amalgamate in some way or form, which is going to result in a new world governing body called something or other, and that will be responsible for modern pentathlon, and as part of that will also be responsible for obstacle racing.
Correct.
I'll rephrase that, responsible for obstacle, because that also includes adventure, running, and ninja as well.
Yes, yeah, adventure racing, ninja, and OCR.
Okay. At this moment in time, on Friday, the 12th of April, World Obstacle still exists and is still a separate body from modern pentathlon.
Correct.
Okay. In order to get to the stage which has been suggested, this general idea of this amalgamation, all the national federations, including British Obstacle, have to look at the plan and decide whether or not it's in the best interest of their members and decide whether to take that forward. Is that where we're going?
Spot on. Yeah.
So that's where we currently are. However, because there's lots of moving parts, I think what is happening here is different moving parts are acting like some things have already happened when they haven't really. So Listener, we got sent, and we've not discussed it on the show yet, but we got sent something that World Pentathlon sent to its member bodies, which were words to the effect of, we're now in control of obstacle, either go and set up an obstacle racing federation or a division within yours, or if there already is a federation, unless they happen to be associated with the Olympics, ha ha ha, because none of them will ever be associated with the Olympics, or associated with the, in our case, Sport England, which again, I don't think any obstacle federations are. Unless that happens, you're now in charge, the end. Okay?
I would do a slight correction to
Okay.
that, because I've seen the
Correct
letter,
it.
but I think it's that's option there was if, and actually it was more around if they're recognised. So they don't necessarily need, obviously we're not an Olympic sport, it's if they're recognised. So there are a number of countries where it's recognised, Hungary, Philippines, I believe a few others. The slight nuance to that next point is if they're not recognised, you can either decide to collaborate and engage with, or, and this is the bit personally I wasn't happy with that language either, you can go and do it yourself, essentially. Yeah. So, you know, in the case of like Pentathlon GB, they're very collaborative and they're working with us. But in a country, they may just decide to take it on themselves and go, okay, we're going to go and do this. And they've kind of, to an extent, been given license by Pentathlon. So I do think that language isn't positive. Correct.
I'm trying to pull up the letter. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize, listener, but yeah, it was very easy to interpret it from the language I saw got used. Was basically, you're in charge, you're responsible for this now, the end. Okay, so I'm going to guess that Raul, who is in charge of World OCR, so he's now the proud owner of the 17.5 meter OCR National Championship, or whatever it is. I can't even remember the joke I made at the start, so I'm just going to remake it. Is there a potential that Pentathlon in his country said, we're now in charge, and he's gone, no, you're not?
I think that's very, very likely a local that unfortunately got bigger and escalated.
That's what it's coming across as in my eyes. I'm in agreement with Ian on this. This is sort of what it's coming across in my eyes, that this has gone out, this letter that we've talked about, and we might share it at some point. We're not sure if we can yet because it was sent to us in confidence. But as it's gone out, the modern pentathlon for his countries turned around and said, we're going to be in charge, and maybe he's turned around and said, well, I don't think you are. I'm agree with that, Ian. Sounds a very good, plausible reason.
Yeah. And actually, I have got it in front of me. I will read it out, and it is exactly as James has said. So in the interest of balance, this was from Shiny Fang, who I believe is the Secretary General. I probably mispronounced her name. She's Secretary General of the Modern Pentathlon. Okay. So in case in one country, both pentathlon and obstacle national federations are recognized by the National Olympic Committee. She uses acronyms, so NOC.
Yeah, I believe so. Essentially, it would be equivalent of like Sport England or BOA. It's the.
Then it does need good talks between both to find a solution, which UIPM could join in your conversation to help them smooth the process. I don't believe Shani is a English speaker as a first language, so listener, I apologize in advance. So that was first option. Second option, in case in one country only pentathlon is recognized by the NOC, then our our National Federation can choose to still discuss the cooperation with Obstacle Club Association inside country, or choose to directly build your own structure, including obstacle within the NF structure straightly. Again, this is just spelling in how it's said. 3, in case in one country only obstacle is recognized, then together with World Obstacle, we'll encourage this NF to start developing pentathlon related sports and be recognized by UIPM directly. And in the case where there's neither, then UIPM is going to look at finding a way. So yeah, the number 2, I think, is the most, shall we say, outrageous from our point of view, because it basically says, look, pentathlon, you're in charge, either go and speak to them, and yeah, if they want to work with you, great. If not, you can ignore them. What's it matter?
Yeah, it's I reacted to the same point, if I'm 100% honest, and I think it's not the way to even start a process of collaboration, is it?
Particularly because at the moment there is no formal joining up, and
Yeah.
the thing that still baffles me about this whole process is we love obstacle racing. We absolutely love it. Otherwise, we wouldn't spend however long me and Alan do talking about obstacle racing and related matters. What on earth is in it for pentathlon in all this? This is what I just can't understand. Because in a way, they don't kind of need to take over. They could just have us as a little thing within pentathlon, a little bit like swimming, a little bit like fencing, like running. I don't know if there is a laser pistol national federation. Why do they want us? Do we know yet?
It's a good question. I think that there is a general move, especially at a world level, to bring multiple federations together, because we all know the politics of federations anyway. So actually bringing federations together is easier for things like IOC and things like that. And the larger organization, the more I guess attractive you are as an organization. And clearly we have a lot of people that do obstacle sports as well. So I think that's my view on where pentathlon sees benefits of a closer integration.
I can understand that. I'm just a little bit confused because I've never met someone at a Tough Mudder who fences, and I'd be very surprised if I find someone who short jumps who does a Tough Mudder. Actually, maybe not too surprised, but they're probably not in the UKOCR series.
I've got a whole new reason why they want James and his team. A whole different reason. Because after Spotty, we all know the biggest awards ever are the UKOCR awards. And James was Personality of the Year last year. So therefore, that's why they want him. That's the only reason. It's the figurehead.
That makes sense. That really does make sense.
They're not getting me. I'm sticking to UK matters. So, so it's a good try.
Yeah. So, where are we?
We're at a point, I think, where we're going to move on from this and let people decide, and we will let people know. If anyone wants to read the letter regarding World OCR, it is on UKOCR.com website. You can still access that, as we spoke earlier on in the show. So UKOCR.com. We have put the letter on there from World Obstacle announcing that they have started. So it's in the news section right at the beginning. While they might
have changed.
Sorry, James, before we move on, what else do you want to say about this topic?
I think it's important just for people, and we have shared some notes. I just want to make sure I cover everything. In terms of British obstacle sports position, we are here to hold World Obstacle to account. And it's slightly confusing now, isn't it? Because actually World Obstacle used to be called World OCR as well. Yeah. We are holding World Obstacle to account. We have no interest in joining another international federation or pursuing that process. There will be a Congress vote in August this year on the proposed merger. Our job is to, on behalf of our members, represent their views, as Ian rightly said earlier, in that decision. So that's one thing. And actually, more importantly, is the process of getting ourselves recognised in the UK. That's kind of priority number one. I think sometimes the theatre and the politics of the international federations, etc., kind of grab the headlines, but actually the hard work of getting ourselves recognised officially as a sport and developing youth pathways, all the things we've talked about, getting the sport out there is priority number one for a lot of volunteers who believe passionately about it. So I think, keep calm and carry on is the message.
Is this gonna mess us up in any way, shape, or form?
It's never good. So actually, we had a lot of questions in our pre-application around adventure racing. So it was actually, well, why World Obstacle have adventure racing? Why don't you have adventure racing? And that actually was something that potentially could hold us up. And it's like, well, no, we have a process for any sport coming into our national federation, and we don't have people who partake in adventure racing. We don't have their mandate, so they're not part of our federation. And then we had to get a letter from them and various other things. But whenever there's conflict, it causes issue. I think the thing is, at the moment, it's kind of one federation that's kind of become World OCR. So I think it's kind of a non-starter. But if it was to become a bigger issue and there was a bigger conflict, then it could do. Yes, absolutely.
On the other side, given what Shiny has sent to the pentathlon people, I presume we have a good relationship with GB Pentathlon, and they're not sending a lot of stormtroopers anytime soon to capture you, Becky, and the rest of the team.
No, and thankfully no stormtroopers at the door. Hopefully not. The message, not the message. We're working on pentathlon with the things that make sense to work with pentathlon on right now. So, for example, the 100-meter sprint course, that's part of pentathlon sprint course. We've got 100-meter and we've got a sprint course. We're working together on that to support and grow that element. Youth participation. They've got lots of kids that do their sport. They're bringing OCR in. It makes absolute sense to partner and support each other on youth participation to grow for both sports benefits. That's what we're working on. We're not talking about integration and things like that because, to everyone's point, we haven't merged at a world level anyway. So why even think about talking about that at a national level? And some federations are doing that. That's absolutely up to them, but that's not part of our agenda. Partly because also there's no resource to even have those conversations. We've got to be focused on our application. That's priority number one, and that's taken all the team's time up.
Yeah, I can't really say anything more on the topic. I think you can't really say fairer than that, Alan, can you?
No. Where are we with our application, James? In terms of, are we 12 months away, 6 months away, 8 months away, 2 years away? What's
definitely not 2 years. If we're 2 years, we're too late.
Right.
Basically. So we're having a meeting. I think it's going to be scheduled for the end of next week with the sports councils. Okay. So the recognition panel that approved our application, we'll have a meeting with them. From that date, we have 1 year. Okay. We're targeting August to have everything ready for the full application. That's going to be a bit tight, but that's our target. But we have a year, so we'll have a little bit of. So this time next year, essentially, if we haven't got a full application in, we've missed the boat and we're going to have to start all over again, which wouldn't be good.
If you put the application in August of this year, let's just say you put it in August this year, will they give you feedback on what you need to do to make it better for when that year's up, or is it just a one-chance saloon?
Good question. I assume there will be a bit of a process. Something we should definitely ask next week. I'll add that to the list. But they seem, because they actually gave us feedback on our pre-application before we submitted our formal pre-application. Okay. So there might be a bit of process like that, sharing documents and things. Yeah.
That's good. I'm just thinking, I know with being a race director and we speak to the safety advisory group, it usually involves quite a lot of meetings. You put your first proposal forward.
Yeah.
They usually make recommendations, and then you'll put your second, and they might even make some more recommendations on second before you get your final sign off. I am hoping that it's going to be a very, very similar situation, and it's not just a one chance saloon shootout type of thing. And
no, I think so. I think they would probably find themselves under kind of, not necessarily from us, but in legal issues if they were just kind of closing the door like that. But yeah, we'll keep updating people, as I say, and thank you to everyone who's been supporting the journey, because it's a massive team effort, and big year ahead.
Cool.
Alan, I've got one more thing to say on this whole thing.
Go on then.
I was concerned that as part of this, we would have to merge, if it all gets agreed, with a modern pentathlon podcast. I was concerned about this, so I went on the Apple Podcast app.
Yeah.
By way of listener, talking about Apple Podcast app, go on there, find UKOCR, leave us 5 stars, because none of you have for a while, so do that. But anyway, on the Apple Podcast app, there is not a single modern pentathlon podcast. That's why they're really coming after the sport. They want our podcast, because there's loads of obstacle racing podcasts. There's not a single modern pentathlon one that I can find. The top one is Off the Podium, an Olympics podcast, so it probably has episodes about modern pentathlon. You then have Jordan Jesse Go, which sounds more like a CBeebies program. What is the dumbest show that you can imagine? I'm reading this live, but this is their description. What is the dumbest show you can imagine? This award-winning show may be dumber. It has no content, no format. Actually, this sounds like one of Ian Adamson's speeches. Wait a minute. Let me just check. No, it's not by him. It's Jesse Thorne and Jordan Morris. Anyway, that's number 2. Number 3 is the Kickabout with Johnny Vaughan. And I don't think Johnny Vaughan has done modern pentathlon in his life.
No.
So I think we found out, Alan, you were being a bit humble earlier. It's not me they're after, it's you two. They want their own modern pentathlon podcast.
They're after the fitness racing godfather, aren't they? Yeah, that's what it is. We're setting in up his life.
Oh dear. What we're talking about Olympics, there was some breaking news the other day. James, I don't even know if you've heard of this yet, but Alan, did you see it about the fact that you're going to get a medal and an envelope full of readies this time?
$50,000, a prize pot of 2.4 million.
Which actually sounds like a Spartan prize pot announcement because it sounds impressive, and then you break it down and everyone gets maybe a bag of chips.
Well, no, they get £50,000. I like the idea, Ian. We all know that the Olympics, in theory, is a amateur sport, and these athletes don't make money from it, in terms of they don't get huge professional money, millions of pounds. They do get money, they do get things. They get sponsored by sports companies and things like that, and they do get paid a wage. They don't make millions out of it until they turn actually professional. There's one thing I have noticed with this, though, Ian, and I'm going to say it's not fair, okay, is that it's the gold medalists, so 48 gold medalists only in track and field are going to get this money.
So track and field, so not like some of the other sports where the Olympics is the top of the level. So yeah. I always have this argument that any sport where winning an Olympic medal is not the top of your sport shouldn't really be an Olympic sport. So I'm sorry, but football, no. Rugby sevens, yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Tennis, no, get rid of it. But something like, say, hockey, which the Olympics is a major deal, they're not going to get some money that they can split across the team?
No. And the one that jumped out for me was boxing, because to go to the Olympics as a boxer, you have got to be 100% amateur. So you cannot have had a professional fight in any way, shape or form to go to the boxing Olympics. So all these are people who've never ever boxed in a pay-per-view show or anything like that. Them guys need and girls need the money. I like the idea they're going to get paid. I've got to admit, I do like the idea they're going to get paid. But it shouldn't just be track and field. It should be every Olympic sport. I
would agree with that. I was laughing in my head there for a second, Alan, because I thought you were going to say these people who have never ever boxed. So I was thinking, I need to watch Olympic boxing because this sounds amazing, because it's not something I tend to watch. But have you ever heard that old joke that at the Olympics, they really should put a regular person in just so that you can find out that number 50 really is a superhuman? How would that work in boxing? That would be legalized manslaughter.
Basically.
Yeah. I believe I'm not sure if it's Cuban boxers. I have read somewhere once that it's one country, and I'm pretty certain it's Cuba. They don't have professional boxers. So if you're a Cuban and you want to box, you have to be an amateur. And the only way you can be a professional is if you actually leave the country and go and live in America. So if you're actually living in Cuba, you can never become a professional boxer. They only have amateur boxers. And that's why I have people that, I'm pretty certain it's Cuba, that are older generation. So they have 40-year-olds boxing in the Olympics because they've been amateurs all their life. That's a strange fact for you.
Like us, Alan, we've been amateurs all our lives too.
All our lives. Have you seen it, James?
In the Olympics.
I haven't seen this. No, I was going to say it's a good thing, but then it seems very strange. It would be one sport within the Olympics. Very strange.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of quotes on it. Most athletes are saying absolutely fantastic. One athlete.
The athletics athletes are saying that.
Yes, they are. Yes, all the athletics athletes. But one athlete, Jonathan Edwards, I said it's a little bit odd. It's not a World Athletics event, it's the Olympics, and it feels like a bit of an undercut to the IOC, who have been very strict around saying we're not going to have prize money. So the IOC are not endorsing this. It's something to do with Sebco and that part of it that are doing it. So yeah, they're going to give the money away.
I've just Googled that. Yeah, it's World Athletics. So it's the equivalent of World Obstacle saying we're going to do this, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's not actually IOC. Yeah.
No, it's World Athletics.
Ian Adamson, if you're listening to this, this is the way to get me on board. Announce prize money of 1.9 million for OCR. You can do whatever you want.
Sold.
Yeah. But will it open up the doors though for the other federations? You know, like, so let's just say boxing. We've just talked about boxing. In boxing, we've got 5 or 6 federations. I've lost count how many there actually is. You know, in professional boxing, if they all got together and gave money away, or what if someone one of them just jumped in, like WBC, and said we're going to give all gold medal boxers money? Ooh, would that put them top of the list? No. Maybe what if Raul came in and said, in the pentathlon, the person who wins the obstacle course race, I'm going to give you £1 million.
Oh, Alan, tell you what, we'll put up a tenner. Whoever wins the obstacle portion of modern pentathlon, when it gets in LA, reach out to us. We'll send you a tenner. And if the podcast is still going by that time, we've got merch, we'll send you a T-shirt.
Hang on a minute, I'm Yorkshireman. That's £5 for men and £5 for women. I hope, isn't it? We're not giving 10 each.
No, not 10 each. No, that's fine. Should we move on? And James, could you firstly tell us what you're drinking, by the way, because we were very rude and didn't ask you.
You've been spotting it, haven't you? It's Athletic Brewing. It's carried over from last year. Yeah, very nice. Upside Dawn.
Do you like Upside Dawn?
I was a good guess. I'm always getting told off, so you know. Now I'm having to bring the non-alcoholic beer on.
We're bad influence. We're a bad influence.
You are. Yeah, it's nice. I do like it. It's almost it's not a school night, actually. No, it is a school night. Hang on. You see, even the non-alcoholic beer gets to me, you see.
Okay. And second question, is there other things on British Obstacle that you'd like to go through before me and Alan go down the rabbit hole that is our list of stuff to talk about?
So, yes, thank you. I'd like to say we announced a load of prizes today. So a load of events that were part of the Ultimate Season Pass that the winner, Julie Middlemiss, didn't take up, said it was okay to use those elsewhere. So we've come up with a little April prize draw. We've got 11 tickets to give away to a load of events to members. You just got to be a member, and then you fill out the form, and you could put your name in the hat for all 11 tickets, or one ticket. And it's Nuclear, McTuff, Born Survivor, Nuclear Fit, Wolf Run, Mud Monsters Run, some entries to Wild Forest, Europe's Toughest Mudder as part of that, British Champs as part of that, £50 voucher for Ninja Warrior UK Gloucester, and a Pentathlon GB 100 meter ticket as well. So some great prizes in there. Wow. And really just want to encourage and, well, firstly, thank all our members. So all our prizes since we've started has only ever been for members. We want to really say thank you to people that are part of our membership. So if you're a founding member, you can put your name in the hat. If you've not become a member yet, or you need to renew, you can renew and put your name in the hat. And we're hoping to do this more later in the year as well. So try and really reward our members. Because something I am conscious of. Obviously, everyone's working so hard for the application, but we also need to constantly be thanking our members and ensuring that membership means something. I know it's not a huge amount of money. It's £15 for adults, but at the same time, it's still money people are putting across, and people need to give us that vote of confidence in their membership. So hopefully with things like this and discounts and things that we're going to really try and push out, people will continue to renew and support the cause. So I think that was the main one. I think hopefully you've got some of the results that have happened on your list. Be good to give those a shout out from the weekend and things.
We certainly have.
Potentially, something on our list that you might be able to help us with, for James, is recently at Rumble, you trialed a new penalty ban system, didn't you?
Yes.
Could you go through that?
You. Yeah. So The international penalty system that's used at the European Championships and the World Championships is the free band system. So essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, you get 3 bands and you essentially get 2 lives on obstacles. So once you've used those 2 lives, if you fail a 3rd time, you essentially are you get taken out of the race. Did not complete. You can still finish the race, but for all intents and purposes, you're not involved in the race. And while that system works quite well from an obstacle flow perspective, it works quite well from administration perspective. Our personal view is that discourages, certainly from a beginner perspective, people coming into the sport, and from a potentially someone that just needs to get better. They could have been in the sport for a long time. Maybe they're a bit older. They're more likely to fail more obstacles. It could be potentially discouraging that they're not able to rank in the race, essentially, and get results. So we've been looking at how we can find a system that will allow everyone to rank in the results. The perfect system would be something like Spartan do, where you have penalties at every obstacle. But that has its own drawbacks. Are the penalties long enough? It takes a lot of administration, extra effort for racers to put on. So this system that we trialed at Rumble was very similar, but we gave 3 bands to men and we gave 4 bands to women, so they get an extra life essentially. And then when they get down to 1 wristband, rather than cutting off the final wristband, you essentially get a mark on your final wristband for each obstacle you fail, and that equates to a 5-minute time penalty. The objective is that not many people get to that point, but actually if it's only a handful of people, it's not too hard to administrate, but everyone is then still in the results. And it worked pretty well at Rumble. It was obviously only a first attempt. It was with a smaller number of people. It was 32 people that did the 3K, and it was quite technically good athletes. So worked well. I think 2 people had time penalties out of those 32, and initial feedback from the survey that we sent out was positive. And someone who actually had the marks on her band was saying actually it's the first time I've been able to do a penalty at the end, because actually she's always had her last band cut off and hasn't then been able to do the penalty loop. So it's actually, strangely, was quite pleased to be able to do a penalty loop, for example. So I think that's really positive. And we'll keep testing it, because ultimately in the UK, what we want to get is many people doing, well, obviously we want to get as many people doing the sport overall, but also on the competitive side, everyone feel that they can do it. It's not an elite pro thing. Competitive is for everyone who wants to be competitive, whether you're first or last, essentially. So that's the goal with the process. First pilot was good. We're going to keep trialing it. Hopefully it's some bigger races as well, in terms of numbers.
Did you say at the beginning that the Europeans do this as well?
They don't. No. The only thing that happens and where we got the idea, it's kind of the system that's used for para athletes and adaptive athletes. So that's where we got the idea and the inspiration from, because then every para adaptive athlete can finish the race and rank in the race, essentially. And that's where we got the inspiration. We kind of had made a few tweaks. In some countries, they do 3 bands for men and 4 bands for women. And we followed that because we feel it's an equitable system.
Yeah.
Most men complete more obstacles than most women, like proportionally. So it makes sense to give an extra life to women. We actually did the same for juniors as well. They got 4 bands. So yeah, I think it's hopefully going to bring more people into the sport, not be discouraged initially if they're not ranking, but they've still got the motivation. Actually, I can rank much higher if I'm completing more obstacles here, because we don't want to make people feel that it's easy and they're not then focused on getting better at obstacles. Because obviously you need to get better at obstacles to compete at a European and world level. So that's kind of part of the process as well. And actually that's why it's a 5-minute time penalty. When you get a time penalty, it's not like a 2 minutes. It's a significant time penalty for failing an obstacle at that point.
So what it takes out is that feeling of did not finish or got DQ'd, doesn't it? Because we're saying that even having the bands taken off you and the time penalties, you're still going to get ranked. You're not going to get a DNF or you're not going to get a DQ. So we're taking that whole away from you and we're making it a much more inclusive race.
Yeah, no, exactly. But equally, there's a punishment from a time perspective that means that if you're losing to someone who's failed 5 or 6, 7 obstacles, you really need to get better at your running. And obviously running's quite a big part of obstacle racing as well. But if you've only completed one, if you've only failed 1 obstacle, for example, you should be beating that person. That's why, again, the penalties are severe in that situation.
Did it need more marshals, technical officials, and obstacles to do it?
If no, it didn't at Rumble.
Okay.
We did learn some bits with it though, and it was good that it was a smaller race because we need to make sure there's a clear process at the end for the recording. However, the intention is not that everyone is getting these marks. It's only the intention is only should be a handful of people. So that actually the course should be designed for the audience that most people only you need those 2 or 3 lives essentially. That's kind of part of it. If the course is too hard and everyone's getting those marks on their wrist, that probably isn't that would probably take more administration. But if it's more of the slower races at the end potentially, then it's not as much people coming through the obstacles, etc. Quick marks, and then you're good to go.
So I'm just thinking off the top of my head. We'll go with Nuclear Rush coming up in May. All right, just as an example. I'm not saying Nuclear are going to do it, listeners. Before you start jumping down my throat, Nuclear Rush, fairly technical. Probably got 15 obstacles that are potentially failable for what I would say someone who's only doing their 2nd or 3rd obstacle course race. Okay. If they did this system, they are potentially going to get marks on their bands quite a lot, but we're still going to be encouraging them to do it. This would be still encouraging them to do it. You are going to get a few people with lots of marks on their bands and lots of penalty loops or time penalties or whatever. I like the idea, and this is why I'm saying it, because I like the idea of fetching someone off the streets who can come in, go do Nuclear Rush, still get ranked, get low down the ranked, might get out to 6,000 runners, might get ranked at 4,599, or whatever they get ranked at, but they're still ranked, they're still seeing a rank, and then they can go away and say, okay, I know what I did wrong, I need to go and learn on that. So next year when they go back, 2025, instead of getting 17 marks on the band, they walk away with 5 marks on the band.
Yeah.
And they ranked up. I like the idea, James. I've got to say, I do like the idea. My only concern was, would it work on a big race?
Well, we've got to walk before we can leap, or whatever the expression is. So I think next step, I feel like this idea has just come to me. Overload run. It's not quite Nuclear Rush, but it's bigger. It's obviously a lot bigger than a Rumble event. What do we reckon? Can we have a mass participation test of the system?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always up for anything like that.
Well, I Overload tested our rulebook for the first time, if I recall.
Yeah.
So leading the way. Let's do it. It's not long, is it, to the race, May 18th?
May 18th, yeah. You know more than me. This, you know the dates more than me. May 18th.
I've got one of those memories for things like this. Once it's in there. All right. Well, there we go. You've heard it here. If you want to pilot our penalty system, the next test will be at Overload Run on May 18th.
There we go.
That'll be interesting. It'll be good to see. Yeah, well, we'll talk more. We won't plan it out on the Swift half now.
We do everything else on here.
Everything else on here. Shall we get some results out here? Do you want to know some results from this weekend?
Yes, please, Alan. Give us all the results. Do you have dual results as well?
I have got dual results as well, yeah, because we didn't do dual results of the week. So we'll do Rumble Fitness this week. Ladies first, Tamar Barkley, 1846, Shyla Dehaney, 1912, and from our Pint-Size OCR podcast, Libby Joyce, 3rd place, 1943. In the men, from our Pint-Size OCR podcast, Finlay Greenleaf takes the title there. 14 minutes, 43 seconds. He beat Darren Martin by 1 second. And in 3rd place, Ian, from our Zoos Up podcast and also Accountability Corner, Chris Shipley.
Wow, well done, team. Alan, out of curiosity, how much further can I slip down the UKOCR rankings in terms of never having a podium? Because I'm fairly sure that, with the exception of maybe Will, and even Will's probably got a podium somewhere, I'm the only one on the staff who's never got a podium.
Yeah, Ian, you're letting the team down completely. Imagine you got a podium at IROX.
Did I?
Well, we walked onto the podium. That's a podium.
We did indeed. We walked straight on it. But yeah, but well done, Tim. We perhaps need to review HR and our hiring process. So I need to get my average up. So we need to find some people who can't do quite as well at OCRs.
It was really, really exciting, both races, actually. The men's, I think Chris needs to remember to check where the finish is, because he didn't seem to have the kick that the other two had. Maybe he was out of breath, or whatever. Dave did the course really well, that you ran downhill, turned around, there was a sprint up the hill to the finish. And Finn was from nowhere. He was about, at one stage in the race, I reckon about 30, 40 seconds behind. In a 3K race, that's a lot to make up. And he made it up at one. As I commented on a post when I saw Finn, he has become a man over the winter. He's really kind of grown and just smashing it on the course. So fair play to Finn. And yeah, it was a great race. It was great to see so many good racers out there smashing it.
I think he's grown as a human being as well, and I mean that in the best possible sense. From when I saw him 12 months ago, when he was a child, and don't tell that wrong thing, but now you are a young man and you are turning into an amazing athlete as well. So, and I know you listen to this, so keep.
And what a host! But both him and Liv, like, so impressed with that. It's like, oh, very
the
impressive.
stats are through the roof for them. Everyone wants it. Everyone's joining. Question: did Jonathan Hunter run at Rumble this weekend?
I'm going to say no. He was at Jewel. I don't think he was at Rumble.
Yeah, he was at Jewel. He got third at Jewel, so I'm going to go these in reverse. And I was wondering where he came at Rumble if he ran, because I know he runs Rumble Racing. So Jewel, the week before, Ian. In the men's, third place, Jonathan Hunter. Second place, Liam Mitchell, who we've had on the podcast. And in first place, Daniel Titcombe coming back. Great to see Daniel taking on a 3K course, because he's been long distance running quite a lot recently, hasn't he? He's been putting the distance in. Wasn't he doing, was it a marathon or something abroad, or some half marathon somewhere?
Possibly. I'm not 100% sure.
Somewhere in
he's
Mallorca,
he's always
like
running. Oh, he did Spartan Mallorca, I think.
Spartan Mallorca, yeah, that was it, yeah. So it's great to see him going to the short distances and doing well. In the females, third, who's up, podcast host, Becky Neal. Second, Josie Lloyd. And first, Imi Hales. Well done to Imi.
Well done to Imi, and well done to everyone. It's nice. We've got to that stage now. Winter's over. It's now OCR season. They're coming thick and fast. And this past weekend, as well as having competitive, we also had fun as well. Tough Mudder down at the used to be the last venue for the national championships, and it possibly won't be this coming year. I was trying to get it right in my head then, because of course it won't be, because you're going to Midlands, I believe, this next year, yeah?
Spartan Midlands this year. Yeah.
So they threw a Tough Mudder on, because we're obviously upset that we weren't going to get British Obstacle. They threw a Tough Mudder on, and Alan, did you see the photos?
How muddy was that? That reminded me of, was it, where was it in Manchester we went to? What park?
It was Heaton Park, but the good news is the locals don't care about it, so we won't get in trouble. Whereas Pippingford, we might get in trouble.
It was just a quagmire. It was like, we talk about mud mile. I think getting from the toilets to the start line was the first mud mile. I haven't seen mud like that in a long time.
Well, not since Manchester Heaton Park. And what do you not think it's actually funny how bad Tough Mudder's look is when it comes to this kind of thing? Because when they have it in privately owned places, yes, you have good mud, but usually the start place is relatively okay, like in Yorkshire, which is privately owned, and Northwest, which is privately owned, and Midlands, which is privately owned. Usually the destruction is away from where most people see it. But whenever they go to a public path, it seems the heavens open, and before we know it, we're in the Daily Mail.
You're right, but I also think it's where it's held in terms of not just it's public and private, but when you go to Yorkshire and some of the private lands, the ground is completely different. So in terms of geology terms, if we go down to Belvoir Park, you have got, it's all on, I think it's it's a sandstone foundation. So the water goes through quite quickly. Up in Yorkshire, we're talking about limestones. So again, the water's coming straight down and through the stone quite quickly. When we go to some of the parks that we go to, these tend to be man-made parks. Yeah. Whereas, first of all, the council, they've demolished housing of some kind. And what they've done is they've put some hardcore down, crushed it, put some soil on the top, and then grass. So the soil in some of these places, I'm not saying all of them, but some of these places is only 2 foot thick. So when the water's in there, it just holds the water because it's got nowhere to run from that point onwards. It needs the soil not to be as thick. Does that make sense? So when we look at Overload Run, quite quickly, Overload Run, if you dig 6 inches down at Overload Run, you're into pebbles and stones and things like that, because that ground is farmland and being used for farmland that long that it's grown plants. Them plants have got their roots that have gone down into the ground, which creates natural channels, and the rocks have come up, if rocks can come up, but the ground's sorted. So it drains faster. And that's what happens in natural parks rather than man-made parks.
I really enjoyed Science Corner this week.
I was going to say, we've got Alan's mastermind subject there, haven't we? There's knowledge.
That makes a lot of sense, Alan. And yeah, I think Tough Mudder should definitely consider this, because I'm curious what's going to happen in Birmingham. Although I think Birmingham might be private. I'd have to double check. I don't think Birmingham's a public park, but yeah, it's quite interesting when you do think. But other than the mud, it looked fun, and they got a medal, Alan. For the first time, I was going to say first time ever, Tough Mudder could take part in Medal Monday. That's not strictly true. You had medals for Infinity, but for the first time ever, anyone who did a Tough Mudder could take part in Medal Monday officially.
Which one did they get this time? Because isn't there 4 different ones they're going to get?
There is. It was Cage Crawl this time. I think Mud Mile would have been much more funnier, but I think they handed them out. They allocated them at the start of the year, which is a shame. But yeah, from what I hear, people had a lot of fun, and it's just great to see Tough Mudder back. It feels like OCR is back for the year.
Yeah.
The other thing was Electroshock didn't have hay bales in, or if it did, it had only a couple. This wasn't your Dash of the Titans type electroshock therapy. It was my version of electroshock therapy that you could, in theory, run straight through, although you couldn't because it was all muddy and horrible.
Do we know why that is? Because I thought Giles said they was going to put him back in all of them this year.
There were some hay bales, they just didn't seem to last that long. I do miss the electroshock. I don't do electroshock half as often as I used to, because I did like just the flat one. You know, when it wasn't at the end,
Yeah,
and it was halfway through the course, it would tend to just be on some flat land, usually nice drainage as well. So I would happily do it, because it's not the shocks that I care about. It's the falling over in the mud and finishing dirty that I care about. That's my issue with electroshock.
So would it be fun if they put Arctic Enema after Electroshock? So that, because then the crowd will get to see that as well, wouldn't they? We get 3 great obstacles then as a finishing line.
You know what? I would be so happy with that. I miss when Pyramid Scheme with the old water used to be the last obstacle. Because again, I like that, because I love OCRs, but I also love finishing clean.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I like clean OCRs.
Not clean
Right,
OCRs, just at the finish.
No, but just finishing, finishing clean, yeah.
Okay, let's go through a couple of quick ones, which we can just knock off, Alan, because I'm aware that we are a bit on time. Shout out Summer Beast. So the home of Jewel, I believe, is having an event on the 31st of August, Alan?
That's not Summer Beast, that's Obstacle Hub.
Body Hub.
Obstacle Hub.
Body Hub.
Should we give an exclusive? It's now an affiliated training centre as well. The formal poster's not going on, but yeah, Daryl's shared everything and he's gone through the training course and everything. So yeah, good work to Daryl.
Second shout out for Daryl tonight, because we gave him a good one earlier.
So it's obviously a good race, and if you've nothing going on the 31st of August, then head down and pack that out if you can. Team UK training days are coming up, Alan. Have you got them up?
I haven't, but I soon can because I've got them already. So we have got Monday, 27th of May, Sunday, 28th of July, and they're at the PT barn with Scotty PT in charge. And will Tony Zumba O'Leary be in charge as well, James? Because he's
he usually is. I don't know for definite. He usually helps Scotty. And then I just would mention 2 junior training days for Team UK as well. One is April 21st at the PT barn. So it's actually free if anyone is going to the Euros, going to the Worlds, or is doing the British Junior Amps signed up. And then on the 4th is one at Rumble Fitness for juniors as well. Just to complement the Team UK training from an adult perspective at Scotty's place later in the year as well.
Cool. So that's excellent news. In less excellent news, Alan, unfortunately, we are not going to have a Netflix series to rival Firefest because One Warrior UK, which promised £1,000 in prize money, launched its tickets, and I want to say about 2 weeks later has cancelled the whole project. And they have confirmed that they are kaput. They're going to do a food festival or something. I don't have any more details other than they have promised refunds. So if you didn't listen to the show and bought a ticket, then get in contact with them quickly to get your refund. It's a shame, to be fair. We shouldn't celebrate people's failures at all, because that's not a nice thing to do. And it would have been nice to have another obstacle race, particularly one that was going to pay money. But it's really, sadly, from the outside looking in, looks a case of someone thinking, oh, this will be easy. And maybe they spoke to the insurance company, Alan, and figured out it ain't going to be easy.
Yeah, that could be one of the. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. You know, the way they said the course was going to look and things like that. It looked amazing. I was really interested in it. Not to the point where I booked a ticket, and I'll be honest. So my fault, guys and girls. I didn't book my ticket. That's probably why they've said they haven't got enough tickets or whatever to close it.
It's all your fault, Alan.
All my fault. I take the blame for this. I should have really bought one. It's one of them things for me, that we get races pop in, or we get an idea, a company gets an idea, and we saw this in its heyday of OCR. Someone goes to Tough Mudder, Sparta, Nuclear, one of the really big races, sees 5, 6, 7,000 people rocking up at a weekend and thinking, I want a bit of that. I want a bit of that. And then all of a sudden, they start to see how hard work it is to get 300 people. They mind 1,000 people, and they don't like it because they just thought it was going to be easy money, and they commit themselves to all this scaffolding and all this rigs, and they've priced it all up. And then when the tickets don't come in, they have no other reason to pull it. In the defense with One Warrior, they've put the money to one side and they are prepared to give everyone's refunds. Not every company's done that. But yeah, and then at the end of the day, though, if we don't start booking tickets early bird, these events are not going to happen because they need the money up the front. Every one of them needs money up front, and if they haven't got the money up front, they're not going to put the event on.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a real because we obviously have our licensing program, and we really want to license everyone, but we have a process in place to make sure we see some things. We see risk assessments, we see insurance stuff. So it's a balance, because you want to support events, but also we want to support events that we know are going to put on good events. Yeah, it's tricky, and we need to do more work from British Obstacle Sports side. We're not here to do the marketing and run private brands. At the same time, we do have a role as a national governing body to support those brands as well. We reach out to any ones that pop up. We reach out, One Warrior, for some events last year, etc., that we didn't license, but we reached out to. So we do try. So anyone also can share any events they see, and we can reach out to them and try and support and promote them, etc., through our licensing process.
It's a tough market at the minute, James, and I've said this all along. Since COVID, it's been very, very tough. And I think I said the other week on a podcast that race organisers need to go back 10, 15 years and say, what did we do 10, 15 years ago before the boom to attract runners into this sport? And that is, I'm going to be straight up, and that's where Overload's going next year. Our plans to market Overload next year are completely different to what we've done for the last 5 years. We're going back 15, 16 years and saying, what did we do 15, 16 years ago to get them runners in? And that's what we're going to be doing next year.
It is fascinating. And this week on the Fitness Racing podcast, nice advertisement ready built in for it, I interviewed a race director of a fitness race, Alan, which is kind of interesting timing. I just asked him, why are you hosting an event? Because you're a Hyrox affiliated gym. Why not just make all your money from training people to do Hyrox? And his answer was kind of, he wants to make a difference, and he wants to do something that members of his gym can go and can train it, can change their lives. And what's interesting, Alan, is I don't think he's in it to make money either. He's very similar to your philosophy. And maybe that's where we end up with OCRs, that we have a lot which are passion projects. And that's okay. I will happily support someone's passion project to try and get them to break even. I'm not, however, going to support something which generates AI, has big promises, and wants to charge me 100 quid for a ticket when they haven't even put on a car boot sale, let alone something which I could die at.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that was one of the things that put me off. And you're right, a lot of it is AI generated, and you can see that, and that does put me off when I see AI generation pictures. I'd sooner be honest. Companies were honest right at the beginning. If you look at the very first pictures from that I was involved in, we Overload Run, we had no pictures. So we used the logo for everything and put on pictures of obstacles that we built. The very first year, that's what we did. The second year, yeah, we had pictures, but you've got to build them up. You can't just go out and use AI to say this is what it's going to look like, because 9 times out of 10, the finished article doesn't look like the picture does. We've seen that with some of the obstacles that have been built through the Tough Minute Innovation Lab, and when Rat Race used to do Dirty Weekend and used to do the obstacle, can you design an obstacle? They don't always finish like they were designed. They're similar, but they don't always finish that way. And that's the same with AI generated. When I look at some of One Warrior's pictures that you can clearly see are AI generated, if I had not gone and then done that obstacle, I would be very disappointed. So
you would. And to be fair, the obstacles did kind of look like they've been ripped out of Modern Pentathlon's book as well. They look very similar to some of the short course. But from someone who obviously didn't do a good job of marketing and launching an event, let's go to Hyrox, which managed to sell out Dublin, I think, in 12 minutes, is what I heard.
This is getting too much. This is like, well, is it a bubble about it? It's not a bubble. No, it's not a bubble. It's just, Ian, what can people do? Because, this is just, everyone wants to go to them, and there's just nowhere near enough tickets, and people are traveling to them now. They can't get to Manchester, so they're traveling from Edinburgh down to Dublin to do it.
I think, unfortunately, if you absolutely need to do a Hyrox, the best option at the moment is to go to Europe, make a trip out of it. That's the best option. The even better option, Alan, and this will go back to the early days of OCR, the best way to guarantee yourself a ticket, volunteer.
That is an absolute cracking idea. Volunteer at one, and then you'll get a ticket for next.
Yeah, exactly. And we're aware, because people sent it me, so thank you. We are aware that Hyrox actually contacted all the volunteers before the announcement of Dublin to A, tell them about Dublin, and B, to say, if you fancy Dublin, get back to us before this time so that we can set aside a ticket for you. And I think that's a stand-up job by him.
Excellent, yeah. Question on that. If I volunteer for Birmingham, can I use my entry for Manchester?
It depends. It completely depends on when they announce it. At the moment, they don't have a pattern for announcing. What they tend to do is you do tend to get a situation whereby they pair things up. So after Manchester, Birmingham got announced. After Glasgow, Dublin got announced. And I'd be incredibly surprised if after Olympia, London Excel isn't announced.
Okay.
But I'm not sure it will work the other way because October to January for Manchester isn't that far at all. But we can figure something out. We'll find a way to get Alan to Manchester because I know you just do one Hyrox a year. We'll figure it out. There's also rumours that they may do a Friday at Dublin again, which would make perfect business sense for them. They are rumours at the point of recording, and I'm fairly sure they'll remain rumours at the point of release on this. But watch this space. It may happen, it may not happen.
Is the UK venues under license, or is it Hyrox who ship the? So I remember when Tough Mudder first came into UK, it was owned by Tough Mudder, where Spartan was a licensed event, yeah, and all the Spartan obstacles and that were all stored, in a farmer's field somewhere in big containers and big truckloads and things like that, and they still are stored like that. But is Hyrox licensed, or is it owned by Hyrox in the UK?
Hyrox is owned by Germany, which is the central one. Spain is a licensed one. I think at the moment, Hyrox UK still shares their equipment with Hyrox Germany. And that even includes some of the registration stuff.
Okay. Because my question was going to be, could Hyrox potentially, if it was licensed or all stored in the UK, do more events?
Potentially, yes. The question becomes, where does the tipping point go? Because something that Hyrox has done, perhaps far better than any OCR in living memory, is they've kept demand high by not saturating their market with tickets.
Yes, like that. Yeah. Although it's been saturated by their gyms.
Yes, there is that. Although again, they have learnt their lesson, and I think on the gym pre-sale, they only allocated a specific number of tickets to the gym pre-sale. I will say that if anyone is thinking of joining a gym for the sole purpose of being able to get a Hyrox ticket, you're an idiot. Join a Hyrox affiliated gym because you want to join a Hyrox affiliated gym. As I understand the position, the Hyrox gym tickets were sold out the night they went on sale to gyms. So they get a 2-day window, but they're all sold out. So even if you were paying, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 quid a month to be part of the Hyrox gym, it would not guarantee you a ticket.
That's fair enough.
I think, unfortunately, volunteer for the time being, eventually it will not be the shiny new toy, and the people who just want a Instagram picture of them pushing some heavy weights will leave. They'll go and find something else. And eventually we'll have a situation like we do at Tough Mudder now, that you can buy a ticket on the day.
Okay, that seems fair. I don't see it happening this year or next, but that does seem fair. I see that in a few years' time, maybe.
Yeah, it will be very similar to Ironman. I don't think you can buy a ticket on the day for Ironman, but most people, if you want a ticket for any Ironman, you can get one.
Yeah.
Have we got anything else?
Nope. I'm going to ask it, James, because I might not get to see you next week. Are you doing London Marathon?
I'm not. I can barely run. I'm not having a good year injury-wise. But I'm looking forward to watching it. I can run. I may be doing a little bit. Yeah, I can run, but not very well at the moment.
And is Harsha in good training for Farmyard?
Harsha is not in good training. I would tell her that you used to ask this question. She is like, what am I doing? I was like, you've still got a month. Come on. At least run. At least run once. No, she's done a few runs, but no, she's not in good training. It'll be a fun day, though. It'll be a fun day. That's
yes.
You know.
I've got nothing else. James, have you got anything you want to add to today?
The only thing that I thought, just because you actually was completely unrelated, but it made me think, the UKOCR series results are out.
Oh, yes.
There are still people in that list who have not claimed their team. I can't, or we can't, put your team in for you. You need to request it. And I think we gave the deadline of this Friday. So today for non-Patreon listeners.
Today, yes.
Otherwise, you lose your points and you don't claim for your team.
Well, they keep
So-
the points. The individuals keep the points, but the teams don't get them.
Correct. Or membership as well. But I think most people are members.
Yeah.
There was only a couple I saw, but yes, indeed.
Cool. You'll not be running at Born Survivor.
No. I might hopefully be there for that one. I don't know, to watch and maybe Rabbit, but yeah, unfortunately not running. But I think it will be exciting to see who turns up for that one. Different type of race, right?
Different type of race. Week after London Marathon. So, it could be a point. I don't know who out of the top 10's going to London Marathon and that, but it could be a place to pick up points, I believe. It's, in my eyes, I think, I wouldn't be surprised if Russell makes a trip over. It's across the country for him, but it's not as far as going right down south. So I think he might make the trip over, and he's on form at the moment.
I think Jason Brunnock is going to be there as well. So be interesting to see how he can do on that kind of race.
Yeah. Interesting to see if Sean Merriweather heads over this year. I don't know, because he's won it for a few years. So it'd be interesting to see if he rocks up and goes for the business, see how good Sean can do. I know he's moving into other types of running at this moment, the ultra running scene and things like that, but it'd be good to see if he can rock up and do it. Potentially not sponsored by Scott this year, so maybe he's not got a ticket. I don't know.
Interesting. Carl Bell's been there before as well, hasn't he?
Carl Bell's been there before, yeah. I think didn't he come second to Sean last year or year before? I think he came second to Sean, yeah. So be good results. Ian.
Alan.
Shall we call it tonight? Shall we ring the bell and say last orders?
We should. I will say it is a good night from me and a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Listeners, once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with us on this long episode this week. It's no longer is it the Swift half. It's a bit longer than a couple of pints tonight. But thank you. Don't forget, as Ian said earlier on, click on that link on Apple Podcasts. Leave us that 5-star review. 4 stars good enough, but 5 stars is better. And until next time, take care, and we'll see you later. Bye.